Chinese warship has seized a U.S. Navy underwater drone.
The Navy is building a fleet of robotic submarines that can operate for months, all by themselves. But what happens when one of them doesn't come back? When a prized drone, an Orca class UUV, went dark, a quiet panic set in. Because this drone wasn't just mapping the ocean, it was carrying a test payload. And when they finally recovered the data logs, the footage revealed a chilling secret: the drone didn't malfunction, it delivered its payload. And what happened next is an international nightmare: the Orca's promise. What most people don't realize is that the future of naval warfare is silent. It's not about massive 90,000-ton aircraft carriers and loud explosions anymore. Well, not just about that. The real revolution, the one that has strategists in the Pentagon and Beijing holding their breath, is happening right now, thousands of feet beneath the waves. It's a revolution of machines. For decades, the ultimate weapon was the nuclear-powered submarine. A 100,000-ton boomer, or a fast-attack sub, could vanish for months, holding the world's fate in its hands. But here's the catch: those subs are crewed by people, 130 sailors who need to eat, sleep, and breathe. That human element is, believe it or not, a weakness. It limits endurance, it creates noise, and it risks hundreds of lives on every single mission. So here's the deal. The U.S. Navy is building a new fleet that has no humans at all: unmanned underwater vehicles, or UUVs, robotic submarines that can operate without air, without crew, and without respite for months at a time. At the very top of this new food chain is the Orca. This isn't some little torpedo-sized drone. The Boeing-built Orca, officially the Extra-Large Unmanned Undersea Vehicle, or XLUUV, is a monster. And extra-large is putting it lightly. Fully assembled, the Orca stretches 85 feet long. That's the length of a Boeing 737 fuselage. It displaces 50 tons of water when submerged and has a hull diameter of over 8 feet. This isn't just a drone. It's a full-on, diesel-electric robotic submarine. And get this, the crazy part is its design. The Orca has a 34-foot-long modular payload bay. Think of it as a detachable trunk. This trunk can be swapped out on the shore in less than 24 hours, and it can carry up to 8 metric tons of, well, whatever the Navy wants. And what do they want? The initial mission profiles are something straight out of a spy thriller. The primary one is clandestine mine-laying. An Orca can cruise for thousands of miles on its silent lithium-ion batteries, sneak into a hostile harbor or a strategic choke point like the Strait of Hormuz, and deploy a massive minefield. We're talking up to 500 naval mines scattered across a 100 square nautical mile grid at depths of over 3,000 feet. Then it can just loiter. It can sit on the bottom, undetected, and listen with its advanced sonar arrays. Its endurance is the real game changer. On its batteries alone, it can cruise for 3,000 nautical miles. But it also has a 100-kilowatt diesel generator. It can surface in a safe area, snorkel just like a traditional submarine, recharge its batteries, and then dive again. This hybrid system gives it a mission endurance of 6 to 9 months without ever returning to base. It could patrol 5,000 miles of coastline or shadow an entire enemy fleet, all by itself. The Orca is the heavyweight, but it's not alone. There's the Manta Ray, a DARPA-funded project that looks like something from another planet. It's a massive 16-foot span glider. It doesn't use propellers all the time. Instead, it uses buoyancy-driven gliding. It floods its tanks to sink, then empties them to rise, converting that vertical motion into horizontal travel with its huge 10-foot winglets. This is insanely efficient. Its passive mode sips just 50 watts of power. That's less than a laptop. The Manta Ray is designed to go to the seafloor, partially bury itself in the sediment, and just hibernate. It can wait for weeks or months, completely silent, before waking up to conduct its mission. And then there's the Yellow Moray. This is the tactical scout. It's an 11-foot-long, 110-pound drone, but its party trick is that it's designed to be launched from the 21-inch torpedo tube of a Virginia-class nuclear submarine. Think about that. The USS Delaware, a $3 billion submarine, can be sitting 5 miles off a hostile coast. Instead of risking itself, it can fire a Yellow Moray from its tube. The drone pops out, unfolds its wings, and glides 50 miles to map a harbor, inspect an underwater cable, or hunt for mines, all while the sub and its 100-plus crew stays safe in deep water. This is not science fiction. In May 2025, the USS Delaware did exactly this off the coast of Norway, proving the concept works. This new fleet is the Navy's billion-dollar secret. But this kind of cutting-edge tech, operating in the most hostile environment on Earth, comes with a colossal risk. This robotic fleet is the future, but the ocean always keeps its secrets. The price of failure. Building a $500 million fleet of robotic submarines is one thing. Keeping them is another. The ocean is a relentlessly brutal place. It's not just the 300 atmospheres of crushing pressure. It's the currents, the corrosion, and the sheer, dark emptiness. When one of these drones goes silent, two nightmares immediately grip the command center. Nightmare number 1. It was simply lost. This happens more than you think, and it's not just the Navy. Take the story of the RAN. This was a $5 million, 7-meter-long Hugin endurance drone, one of the most advanced science AUVs on the planet. Its mission, to dive under the massive Dotson ice shelf in Antarctica. This is one of the most dangerous, uncharted places on Earth. We're talking about a slab of ice hundreds of feet thick, floating on 2,000-foot deep water. In February 2024, the RAN went on its final dive. It was supposed to be a 48-hour mission to map the warm currents melting the ice from below, but the RAN never came back. The team on the icebreaker Orion waited. The clock ticked past the deadline. Nothing. They searched 50 square kilometers with sonar. They dropped sonobuoys, listening for its emergency pinger. All they heard was silence. What happened? GPS doesn't work under ice. The drone navigates by dead reckoning, using super-precise gyroscopes and accelerometers. But in the powerful 2-knot undercurrents, the tiniest error, a 0.05-degree drift, adds up mile after mile. The scientists believe the RAN simply got lost. It likely drifted, ran out of power, and is now pinned against a 10-meter-high ridge of ice on the underside of the ice shelf. A $5 million coffin lost forever. This is the cost of doing business. Scientists estimate the loss rate for these polar AUVs is as high as 20%, 1 in 5. So, when a Navy drone vanishes, the first thought is, the ocean won. It snagged a fishing net. A subsea landside buried it. Its battery died. But there's a second nightmare, one that's infinitely worse. Nightmare number 2. It wasn't lost. It was taken. December 15th, 2016. The USNS Bowditch, an ocean surveillance ship, was operating in the South China Sea, about 57 statute miles from the Philippines. This is a critical detail. International waters. The crew was recovering a simple 6-foot-long underwater glider. This thing was unclassified, just measuring water temperature and salinity. As they were about to pull it in, a Chinese warship, the CNS Zhanjiang, which had been shadowing them, launched a small boat. The Chinese boat zipped over, snagged the drone with a hook right in front of the American crew, and hauled it aboard. The Americans, just 800 yards away, were stunned. They got on the radio, but the Chinese ship ignored them and just sailed away. They stole it in broad daylight. The Pentagon was furious, calling it an unlawful seizure. After 5 days of intense diplomatic screaming, China returned the drone, claiming it was just a navigational hazard. Yeah, about that. The real reason was obvious: intelligence. They wanted to take it apart, see how it works, and learn its frequencies, and to send a message: this sea is ours, and your robots aren't welcome. This is the great fear. Losing a $5 million drone like the RAN is a financial and scientific blow. But losing an 85-foot Orca? That's not just losing a piece of hardware, that's losing a top-secret 8-ton payload. That's giving your #1 rival a master key to your entire naval strategy. So when a next-generation drone, let's call it ODIN-1, is deployed on a top-secret mission in the North Atlantic, and it suddenly goes silent, the panic in the command center is absolute. The first question isn't what happened. The first question is, who did this? The drone was gone, and the list of suspects was as deep as the ocean itself. War in the deep, the Russian theory, the Belgorod secret, a cat-and-mouse game. The Poseidon's Shadow, War in the Deep. When a high-value U.S. asset vanishes in the North Atlantic, the eyes of the Pentagon don't look at a map, they look at a globe. And in the North Atlantic, all lines of suspicion lead straight to one place, the Russian Northern Fleet, based in Murmansk. This isn't just Cold War paranoia, it's the new reality. The area where ODIN-1 went dark is the GIUK gap. Greenland, Iceland, United Kingdom. This is the choke point, the gap that Russian submarines must pass through to get from their bastion in the Barents Sea out into the open Atlantic, where they can threaten the U.S. East Coast. For decades, the U.S. and its NATO allies have lined this gap with a complex, multi-billion-dollar network of underwater sensors called SOSUS, or the Sound Surveillance System. It's a net of underwater microphones designed to hear a Soviet, or Russian, sub from hundreds of miles away. So here's the deal. The Orca drone, ODIN-1, wasn't just on a test run. Its real mission, the one nobody talks about, was to act as a new kind of SOS-USA Mobile 1. It was designed to patrol the deep, dark, cold-water shadow zones where traditional sonar can't see, hunting for Russia's newest and quietest submarines. And Russia has a new king of the deep, the Yasin-class nuclear-powered submarine. These things are considered to be just as quiet, if not quieter, than the best American Virginia-class subs. But here's the first wild theory, and it's the one that keeps the admirals up at night. What if the drone was found by the one ship on Earth designed to do exactly that? Enter the Belgorod. The Belgorod is a monster. It is the single longest submarine in the world, over 600 feet long. That's longer than a World War II battleship. But it's not a normal attack sub. It's a special mission mothership. It's a converted Oscar II class sub, the same class as the Kursk that tragically sank, but its hull was stretched by over 100 feet. What for? Two reasons. First, it's the launch platform for the Poseidon nuclear-powered, nuclear-armed torpedo, a terrifying doomsday weapon. But second, and more relevant to our drone, the Belgorod is a mothership for other deep-sea vehicles. It has a massive pressurized hangar on its back and docking equipment on its belly. It's designed to carry and deploy a fleet of its own underwater drones, like the Harpsichord deep-sea surveillance drone or the Losharik, a 34-foot titanium-hulled mini-sub that can dive to an incredible 25,000 feet. So the theory goes like this. The Orca Odin-1 was on its patrol, listening. The Belgorod was in the area, also listening. Using its Harpsichord drone, the Russians detected the American UUV. This wasn't a chance encounter. This was an ambush. The Belgorod wasn't just there to hunt, it was there to steal. A Losharik mini-sub, or perhaps a massive robotic grapple deployed from the Belgorod's belly, could have simply grabbed the 85-foot Orca, a silent, robotic elimination in the deep. The American drone, designed for stealth, not a high-speed fight, would have never stood a chance. Its final data packet, a simple ping, would have been cut off mid-transmission. The crazy part is, this isn't even the most extreme version of the theory. Some analysts believe the Poseidon torpedo, the doomsday weapon, might have a secondary function, not just to flatten coastlines, but as a high-speed 70-knot interceptor for other drones, an underwater drone dogfight. The implications are staggering. If Russia did capture the Orca, they now have it all. The 8-ton payload, the sonar frequencies, the AI-driven navigation and avoidance software, everything. It would be the single greatest intelligence loss for the U.S. Navy since the Cold War. The Russian theory is terrifying. But what if the enemy wasn't Russian at all? The abyss stares back. Okay, so the Russian theory is the most likely. It's geopolitical, it's logical, and it's what every defense analyst immediately assumed. But what if the truth is weirder? A lot weirder. This brings us to the second and much wilder theory. What if the drone wasn't eliminated by a human rival? What if it stumbled across something unidentified? For the last few years, the world has been obsessed with UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, UFOs. And get this, the people who really blew the lid off this weren't conspiracy theorists in tin-foil hats. It was the U.S. Navy itself. We've all seen the footage, the Tic Tac video from the USS Nimitz in 2004, the Go Fast, and gimbal videos. These were released by the Pentagon Navy fighter pilots. The most credible observers on the planet described trans-medium vehicles, objects that could fly at hypersonic speeds in the air and instantly transition and move at incredible speeds underwater. Commander David Fravor, the Top Gun pilot who intercepted the Tic Tac, said the object he saw, which was the size of his F-18, was seen just above a much larger, shadowy object in the water, a disturbance the size of a 737. So here's the deal. If these UAPs, or trans-medium vehicles, are real, and the Navy itself has admitted it's tracking them, where are they going? They're going into the ocean. This is where UAPs become USOs, unidentified submerged objects. The ocean, at an average depth of 12,000 feet, is a far better, far more secretive place to hide a base than, say, the dark side of the moon. It's right here, and it's 95% unexplored. Now let's go back to our drone, ODIN-1. It's patrolling the deep North Atlantic, thousands of feet down. Its entire purpose is to listen for and classify anomalies. Its advanced AI is programmed to identify the acoustic signature of a Yasen-class sub, a Chinese Shang-class, or even a pod of whales. But what happens when it hears something else? Something that doesn't match any known signature? The theory goes that the drone's passive sonar picked up an object moving at, say, 300 knots underwater. That's not a typo. 300 knots. The fastest known torpedo, the Russian Shkval, hits about 200 knots, but it's basically a short-range, incredibly loud rocket. This is silent, and it's moving 5 times faster than a nuclear submarine's top speed. The drone's AI would be scrambled. It would have no classification. It would try to get a better look. It would ping with its active sonar, and that, in this theory, was its fatal mistake. The final 30 seconds of footage, the data packet that was recovered, wasn't of a Russian sub. It was of a thing, a fast mover, a trans-medium vehicle. The footage allegedly shows the object, a perfect black disc, stop on a dime, turn without turning, and then accelerate towards the drone at a speed that is physically impossible. The last frame is a flash of light, and then static. But there's an even darker version of this theory. What if the drone wasn't eliminated? What if it was investigating something? There's a famous and very real, unexplained sound that was recorded in 1997, the bloop. It was an ultra-low frequency sound, picked up by hydrophones thousands of miles apart. It was one of the loudest underwater sounds ever recorded. And its acoustic profile? It sounded biological. For years, people speculated it was a Cthulhu, an animal a mile long. Now, scientists at NOAA are pretty sure the bloop was just a massive ice quake in Antarctica. Pretty sure, but what if it wasn't? What if there are things in the deep, living anomalies? What if the drone patrolling a deep-sea trench wasn't eliminated, but eaten? What if the last footage showed its robotic arm being grabbed by something that wasn't a machine? It sounds crazy, but in an ocean we've only explored 5% of. Crazy is a relative term. The government admits to UAPs. Why not USOS? But the most shocking truth was still to come. The DDT time bomb. The wild theories about the lost drone ODIN-1 were explosive. Was it a Russian grab? A USO encounter? A deep-sea monster? The Navy, of course, was silent. But here's the twist. The real story, the footage that actually changed everything, didn't come from a top-secret military operation in the North Atlantic. It came from a science mission, just 12 miles off the coast of Los Angeles. And the monster it found wasn't Russian, and it wasn't alien, it was us. This is the down-to-earth truth that's more terrifying than any conspiracy. In April 2023, a team from the Scripps Institution of Oceanography set out on a mission. They were using the same class of advanced drones the Navy uses, 2 Remus 600s. These are sophisticated torpedo-shaped robotic subs. Their target? A 135-square-mile patch of the seafloor known as the San Pedro Basin, specifically a place called Dump Site 2. For decades, this area was known to be a problem. But what most people don't realize is the scale of that problem. This was a known dumping ground, but the records were old, incomplete, and, as it turns out, a complete and total lie. The two Remus drones, towing 100-meter side-scan sonar arrays, began their meticulous 24-hour-a-day mission. They mowed the lawn, sweeping back and forth across 36,000 acres of seafloor at depths of 1,000 to 3,000 feet, an area roughly the size of Manhattan. Their 500 kilohertz sonar pulses painted a grayscale mosaic of the bottom, one strip at a time, and what they found was a nightmare. The computers started logging barrel-shaped anomalies, first a few, then hundreds, then thousands. When the mission was over and the data from the drones was recovered, the team processed the final number. The drones had cataloged 27,162 distinct barrel-shaped objects. This wasn't just a dump site, it was an arsenal. It was a toxic graveyard. The team then sent down a second drone, this one with high-definition 4K cameras and powerful 2,000 lumen strobe lights. And the footage. This is what changed everything. The footage from 3,000 feet down in the pitch black was chillingly clear. It showed linear arrays, row after row, of 55-gallon steel drums. They were spaced 10 to 20 feet apart, as if they had been dumped off a conveyor belt from a slowly moving ship decades ago. Many were corroded, many were broken open, but they weren't all just barrels. Mixed in with them were munitions. The footage was undeniable. The drones identified over 500 anti-submarine depth charges from the World War II era. These were Mark VI models, each one weighing 200 pounds and packed with 100 pounds of high explosives. That's 50,000 pounds of unstable 75-year-old explosives, sitting 12 miles from the coast. They also found 1,200 Mark I smoke floats, pyrotechnic canisters. This was a forgotten military dump. Researchers pieced together the story. After transiting the Panama Canal, ships heading to the Pacific Theater would lighten their load by just dumping surplus ordnance overboard. This was, horrifically, a sanctioned practice until the Marine Protection Act of 1972. But here's the catch. That's not even the worst part. The 4K footage revealed something else, something the sonar couldn't see. Around 15% of the barrels were surrounded by strange pale halos in the sediment. These 2 to 5 foot rings glowed white under the drone's lights. When researchers got sediment cores from these halos, they got a shock. The pH of the sediment inside these rings was between 11.8 and 12.2. To put that in perspective, that is as caustic as oven cleaner. It's lie. This wasn't just old ordnance. This was a chemical wasteland. Lab analysis found high levels of a substance called brucite. This is what forms when alkaline refinery sludge, with a pH of 13, reacts with the magnesium in seawater. And where did this sludge come from? The drones had found the smoking gun. This was the toxic waste from the Montrose Chemical Company, which, from 1947 to 1971, was the nation's largest producer of the pesticide, DDT. The drones had found the leaking, corroding, toxic source of 3,500 tons of DDT, an environmental catastrophe preserved in the deep. The drones found that Dungeness crabs in the area had bioaccumulated zinc and aluminum at 10 times the safe limit. This was the source. This was the time bomb. This is the footage that changed everything. The drowned drone that revealed the truth wasn't a single, lost military machine. It was a pair of robotic explorers, and the footage they brought back, it exposed a secret we had kept from ourselves. The drones found a monster, all right, and the monster was us. What now? So here's the deal. The drones did their job. They pulled back the curtain on a 75-year-old secret. The wild theories about Russian subs and sea monsters, they're exciting. But this is real. This is here. And for the people watching this, you're probably wondering, so what? What happens now? Are we all in danger? Is this toxic sludge going to wash up on Santa Monica Beach? Let's talk down to earth. The immediate danger to people on the surface is low. This isn't a new problem. It's just a newly seen one. Thanks to those drones, the waste has been down there for 3/4 of a century, slowly leaking into the deep sea food web. The real danger isn't an overnight explosion. It's a slow-burn ecological disaster that's been happening for decades, but the scale of it is what's so hard to comprehend. That dump site, too, is just one of 15 known dump sites along the California coast. In total, over 100,000 tons of waste were dumped between 1930 and 1972, and 40% of that was military. So what's the plan? This is where the story gets really complicated. You can't just go down there and scoop it up. The Navy's response to the drone findings was methodical. The Office of the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Environment issued a new directive starting in 2024. Annual sonar sweeps of 500 square miles across 5 different sites are now mandatory. They are using AI classifiers that can detect munitions with 92% accuracy. They face 2 distinct threats. The first is the explosive one, those 500 depth charges. The risk of one just going off is low, but not zero. It's estimated at a 1 in 1,000 annual risk at that depth. But in shallower water, under 200 feet, where fishing trawlers are known to snag 50 of these relics every single year, the risk is very real. The solution for those is controlled detonation. Small, 1-pound C4 charges are used to neutralize them. The second, and much bigger threat, is the chemical one, those caustic DDT-laced halos. And this is the ultimate catch-22. According to the 2025 models from NOAA, if you try to move those barrels, if you disturb them, you could create a massive toxic plume, a pH plume that spikes to 500 meters, eliminating 90% of the local marine life. So you can't just clean it up. The solution, for now, is containment and monitoring. The EPA's dump site tracker portal has logged over 1,200 updates since 2023. NOAA's Ocean Explorer maps now include the Scripps data. Los Angeles County has issued a $10 million grant for more drone and ROV patrols to enforce a 5-mile no-fish zone around the site. The full cleanup, if one is even possible, the estimates are just staggering, between $2 and $5 billion, and it would take over 20 years. The Navy's new fleet of drones, from the 85-foot Orca to the tiny yellow moray, was built to find enemies in the deep. Instead, their civilian cousins found a monster of our own making. The footage they recovered didn't just change everything. It gave us a receipt for our own past, a bill that has finally come due. So, what do you think? Was this just 75 years of out of sight, out of mind, or was it a deliberate toxic cover-up? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell.